Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're gonna take a look at the cheapest team for the Ultra League. You see it on the side already. We're going to have the Obstagoon as lead, the Golisopod as a say-sub, as well as the Crobat in the back. So, what were the restrictions for me? It was only 10k charge move unlock for all of those Pokemon. They all need only 10k, as well as none of them are allowed to be XL, as well as none of them are using a legacy move. So, like, you don't need an Elite TM for this team. You don't need anything for that. And honestly, I expect this team to be pretty bad. And it turned out I was wrong. Like, this team was actually really decent. I climbed quite a lot with this. And maybe I could have even climbed a little bit better if I played a little bit better and played a little bit more. But the thing what actually really surprised me is the Pokemon that we have in the back, the Crobat. Crobat is really badly ranked on PvPoke. Like, Crobat is only ranked like rank 200 or something. But I needed somewhat of a poison type in order to fit in with my lead of the Obstagoon, because, like, yeah, you know, dark and poison are very good together. So here I decided to go for this one because it was the only one available that fit the criteria prior. We have the Shadow variant here, which is definitely better than the normal variant, but I already had this Pokemon built, so I'm not gonna build another one for it. But yes, you could use here also the normal variant, which is cheaper as well. Of course, here now it's 12k for the charge move unlock because it's Shadow, but you can also use the normal variant. I just didn't want to build an entire Crobat again just for that reason here. But yeah, otherwise only the other poison type, which has 10k as a charge move unlock and is viable or like available even for the Ultra League, is a Venusaur, which of course uses the move Frenzy Plant, which is legacy, so it wasn't really allowed for me. Otherwise, this team worked out so well. Say-Sub of Golisopod is amazing. You kind of want to have Aerial Ace. I definitely think Aerial Ace is better than Exeter on this Pokemon. And otherwise, of course, we're going to have the Obstagoon in the lead, which was really good in a lot of scenarios. I am not sure if I prefer Cross Chop though. Cross Chop was sometimes really cool and came in clutch in quite a few matchups, but I also could have liked to see like something like Hyper Beam would have worked out fairly well as well. But definitely still a solid pick. Cross Chop also still worked out, so I think it's still the best moveset for this Pokemon in this position. But honestly, I'm not the biggest fan of Cross Chop in general and Obstagoon. I just like to have some kind of nuke move on it. But yeah, we're going to be able to go for the Night Slash, getting the knockout against the opponent as we see the Scrafty coming in. I decided to stay in here for a little bit so they just waste some energy as I can swap out into my hard counter of the Crobat, as we will see the Tentacruel lurking here in the back. Being able to outspeed me here is going to be a little bit tough, but I do a little bit more damage as my fast move is going to be not resisted unlike them. But of course I'm generating energy a little bit slower, so it's a little bit awkward, but I'm going to be able to get a shield here. And not only that, I'm also going to be able to still go for a Shadow Ball, and this is going to get the KO against the opponent, allowing me to easily win the game as the opponent decides to forfeit, and we can move on into the next game. We're going to have the Obstagoon against the Tentacruel in the lead. A very bad lead for us. We decide to stay in for a little bit and try to get some damage maybe even against them, or just in general try to get a ton of energy here. I'm going to decide to go for a charge move now because I was basically at maximum amount of energy as the opponent decides to do basically the same. You kind of have to play around against Tentacruel. I encountered a lot of Tentacruels here, which was a little bit annoying to deal with, but we're going to be able to still get to an Aerial Ace here. This is gonna get some damage, and we're going to also see it's a CMP tie. They might have Slot Trave, but usually they're an Acid Spray, and here they're gonna go for the Scald, which is also fine for me, as they're going to have the Greninja in the back. Of course, they know that I'm not running Exeter, and maybe I should have went for the Aerial Ace instead of the Liquidation. I was just hoping for the defense drop, which I didn't get here. But we will see. Right now, the opponent gonna go for a Night Slash. We have some lag here, but I can actually not get to another move, as they're gonna knock me out with another Night Slash. Not getting the boost, luckily, but I can still go for one Cross Chop here, and now it depends on what they're going to have in the back. Sadly, this does not knock them out, and this is going to be awkward, because I was hoping that this is just a Night Slash again, but it's just the Hydro Cannon. So it's all down to Crobat getting the first kill. We're gonna see the Tentacruel coming in, which is okay for us, honestly. If we can farm down, I'm going to use a shield for the potential Scald, but we're gonna get the attack drop and the Skuntank in the back. I'm fairly certain I would have been able to win this game without the attack drop, maybe even. It would have been close, but I would resist the fast move of the opponent, while my fast move would just chunk more and more after a while, after all the Poison Fang debuffs, so could have been cool. Here, this game kind of bothers me a little bit, as you're going to see. We're going to see the Skuntank against us, which doesn't get the debuff, which is really cool. I got the debuff immediately in the beginning, I think. And I decided to go for Liquidation here, which is totally fine, but the opponent thinks he can farm me down. And I could have got to the Liquidation here, realigning my Pokemon, which would have been amazing. But sadly, I went for the wrong move, because I didn't know that I would be able to get to the Liquidation at the same time as I would get to the Aerial Ace. So I don't really play Golisopod too often. It's not really a Pokemon I'm really familiar with, so that's definitely something that I now learned afterwards. But here we're gonna now see the opponent's final Pokemon, again being Tentacruel. As said before, I counter this Pokemon quite often, and we're gonna go straight for the Shadow Ball. Getting the damage onto the opponent is amazing, especially as I have some energy, I think, stored on my other Pokemon as well. On my Obstagoon, I will be able to just go for the Poison Fang against the opponent here, trying to get a shield from the opponent, which does work out quite well, and I tried to swap out in time to knock them out with it, but it does not work at all, as I am going to go ahead and now stay in, try to go up to the Poison Fang and swap out now, get the knockout against the Tentacruel, but here you're going to see me farming up extra above the cross-chop level there, just to confuse the opponent so that they don't know that I'm going to be able to get there still in time. 2 more fast move was all it takes for me to knock them out here. I would have won anyway because I wouldn't CMP against this Crafty with my Crobat. So this was a good game there. Let's take a look at the next opponent. We're going to have the Giratina against us, and in comes a Steelix. This is actually fairly great for us. We can just go for the cross chop, and as they went swap out, I was actually able to align my fast moves really nicely there. So we're going to get some damage onto them, as well as we can let those breaking swipes go through. Obstagoon is surprisingly bulky, by the way. This Pokemon is really bulky in the Ultra League right now, which is really cool, and we can just go for a cross chop here, getting them low. They still can get to another move here, but I can still go for the full farm down, which is amazing, so I can realign my Pokemon. And yes, I basically lost my best answer for the Giratina, but we will see the Cobalion coming in from the opponent, where I can still go for a liquidation, do some decent damage, and maybe force some shields later on. I'm going to use a shield here because I can still use my Golisopod to do some damage against the Giratina as well if they want to swap in. Most I should went for the bait here because it's kind of obvious that they're going to shield this move up, and they definitely do. So here right now I'm going to use a shield again. This can still be a little bit tricky. Stone Edge comes through. We will see the Giratina swapping in, and I can just go for the liquidation, trying to get again the defense drop against the opponent, which again doesn't work out at all. But we will see that they're going to go ahead and go for the Ancient Power, doing a ton of damage, not knocking me out luckily, but I can still swap into my Obstagoon. Being able to get this Night Slash off is going to be nice, especially as I'm going to still be able to reach the next one, as they are CMP tying against us. They cannot undercharge really, because yeah, the fast move of the opponent is not doing any damage against me, so it's kind of useless for them, and they're gonna swap out into the Cobalion now. And what you can see here is that Crobat, even though we are Shadow, is still going to be easily able to survive this move, but also would have been still able to survive a Sacred Sword. A Sacred Sword is double resisted, and we can just sweep endgame here with our Crobat. Next opponent coming through, again, horrible lead. We are not catching any decent lead. Like, these are literally the core breakers for the team, but the opponent decides to swap out for whatever reason into their Scrafty, getting now the Crobat against them. And we will see here already that they are not going to be able to knock me out with another Foul Plate, so I'm going to be totally safe here. I can realign my Pokemon. I can just go ahead, go for a charge move here, farm them down, let this move go through. I could have even used a shield here maybe if I wanted to, but I think it's fine. I get to another charge move here anyway, get the debuff onto the opponent's defense, which might come in clutch later on, who knows. We will see that they're going to be able to knock me out, but I'm going to decide to go into my Golisopod, letting this move go through just in case Acid Spray just is called, which is also going to be resisted. But sadly, the opponent gets the attack drop onto me. The thing that I try to do the entire time with the defense, with my liquidation, of course works immediately for the opponent, but we will see here the Night Slash coming through, going to get the attack buff for me, which is really cool, which literally doesn't matter though really, because the opponent decides to most likely use their shields now as well. So like, yeah, my counter does maybe 1 more damage against the ghost type, which is not really too significant, so I don't really think this boost here did anything for me. The boost doesn't really matter for CMP ties. The opponent going to actually shield this move up as well, and I'm just going to sacrifice my Obstagoon. So yeah, the boost literally didn't do any effect there, but we're going to see the opponent having the Tentacruel still in the bag. We can still go for the liquidation, and we're gonna get finally the defense drop, and this is really important. But I'm fearing another Scald debuff, but luckily they actually go for the Acid Spray, which is way better for me, because I can just go ahead and go for the Aerial Ace, doing a ton of damage, and thanks to the defense drop there, we'll be able to farm them all the way down. And 1 more Aerial Ace is hopefully all it takes to knock them out. Let's see here. Yes, it is, and we can now win this game. So let's take a look at the next opponent. Do we have a great lead? We have definitely the best lead for this team here to have like this one against the Obstagoon. But still, you're going to lose the 0 shield, and I think even the 1 shield scenario, depending. I think I think if they use one shield, yeah. I think you win lose the 0 and the one shield scenario against the opponent, so that's not ideal. Luckily, we don't get the debuff there, which is really happy for us, because now this is going to change quite a bit, as you're going to see here, that we now will be able to knock them out with one more charge move. But as we will see as well, the opponent is deciding to use a shield, and I just gonna go ahead, stay in, go for a shield as well, shielding up a potential focus blast here, and I just going to go for the full farm down, getting a ton of energy, and we will see the Virizion coming in, but also the Bombardier in the back. This is a spicy Pokemon for sure. Very cool to see something like this and higher up elo as well. By the way, this is going to be one of the final videos in general where I'm going to be close to Legend rank because of queue times, because I'm not in the mood really to play Ultra League or the other one, the other league in general right now as well. I'm going to decide to not play the next 2 days and just going to forfeit all my games. So I'm also going to be a little bit lower for the Go Battle Day, or like Go Battle Weekend, which is coming up. So definitely, yeah, this is most likely the last time where I'm around like the 2800 rating. So just that you're not confused when like Great League starts again and I make videos about it and I'm like in a very like a lower elo range at like 2400 most likely or something. That's most likely right. Next opponent, Great League for us. We have the Greedent against us, but honestly, he has against something which is valuable to know, because if you don't know, it's going to impact the gameplay a little bit more, which you're going to see here as well. I'm going to go for the cross chop against the Greedent, which is totally fine. But this is still a very great matchup for me. But I was not sure, and I thought that the next cross chop would do enough damage here to knock them out from this range. But it was like, maybe not, maybe it just doesn't, and it literally just barely doesn't. So like what I could have done is, I could have let the opponent go for the charge move first, let it go through, farm down, and then just try to go for the Night Session instead of the other one, which could have gave me the chance at least to buff myself. And here I decided to just swap out immediately, because if the opponent is going to stay in with a Greedent against the obstacle in the lead, the likelihood of them being weak to me in the back is fairly high. So I just decided to swap blindly into my Say Swap, which turns out to be a very bad idea, because we're going to encounter here already the Mandibus. So yeah, this is not really going too well for me, but at least maybe Crobat can still do something here. I'm going to use a shield, and they go actually for the Aerial Ace, which I found a little bit risky, or like weird, because they're also going to have Foul Play, which you're going to see here, which of course does still way more damage than, for example, the Aerial Ace, but I guess great shield bait there, as we're going to be able to go for the Poison Fang. The defense drop is kicking in, but as we see, we are still forced to use another shield, and let's see what they're going to have in the back. And yes, it is weak to Obstagoon, but like it's not even that weak, so like, yeah, I don't know. It's not the craziest one. Honestly, like, Jellicent is not as weak as a lot of people think here. They sadly shielded the correct move, and I will not be able to do anything in this matchup, so I'm going to just get Surf down. But yeah, that was kind of unfortunate to see this Pokemon in the back. But honestly, like, Surf is just doing so much damage to Obstagoon after a while, which is wild, and you need like 4 Night Sessions to knock them out. This thing is just broken, in my opinion. It's a very strong Pokemon, kind of underused. But we will see the Steelix against us now. Steelix in the lead is of course really nice. I'm gonna go for the Steampita here, which I rarely really do, because if the opponent goes for an extra fast move, you get basically 3 turns for the opponent for free. But they decide to not do this and go straight for the Breaking Swipe, allowing me to also get a shield advantage. And I'm fairly certain I can get out of this matchup with the knockout as well as the shield advantage. As we're going to see, we're gonna do a ton of damage with our cross chop. I can let this move go through, and I should be able to outspeed them, as well as I should be able to do hopefully enough damage here that I don't have to use a shield, but let's find out shortly. It is just barely not enough, and I decide to swap out because they're staying in here. They're mostly going to have something very weak in the back. And yes, a few HP Obstagoon is still very decent if you battle something, for example, like a Greedent, or if you battle something like a Registeel in the back. Then you really appreciate those few HP that you still have left on the Obstagoon, because they cannot really farm you down if they don't have false move pressure. So here we're at least going to be able to get the defense drop with our Liquidation, which is fairly nice for us, as we can still do some damage with our Obstagoon, our Golisopod here. The opponent goes for the Body Slam. This is going to allow us to still swap out here, but I'm going to try to swap into my Crobat now, which hopefully can still deal with the opponent. It's going to be a tough one, honestly, but Crobat can at least try to go for a charge move here. I'm not going to go for the full farm down. I could have went for the full farm down, most likely. Yeah, I could have. Maybe this would have been the play here. Maybe it would have been the play, but it doesn't really matter too much, I think, because they're going to decide to forfeit here anyway. But maybe next time I would have actually went for the full farm down instead, because I would have got so much energy, and I think with Poison Fang being a debuffing move, it's really nice to have. Next opponent, great lead, but awkward face-up here. We're going to encounter the Tentacruel again, and I'm going to stay in again until the opponent throws and can still at least go for 2 Night Stashes, which will put them more into a range where I can just swap into my other Pokemon in the back and going to be fine. But I'm also now already around, like, the opponent is going to be able to basically swap out in like 20 seconds or something, or like now after this move, in like 5 seconds after this move, and we're going to see it as well as they're going to be able to catch Charge Move here, which is kind of annoying, but also okay for me. They're gonna get the defense drop, which can come in clutch now because they are forced to go straight for their Ice Punch. I will be able to just go into my Obstagoon and farm them all the way down, as I'm going to use a shield here just in case. I think I still would have survived it because the opponent is not Shadow, so that was kind of unnecessary most likely, but I'm still going to be able to just farm them all the way down. I have so much energy stored, and we will see the final Pokemon going to be the Poliwrath. And while this is great for our Golisopod, it also kind of means it's going to be a tough one for our other Pokemon, our Obstagoon. And the likelihood that the opponent is going to catch is fairly high, but the opponent, I think, has a little bit of energy at least still on their final Pokemon that they have there. So yeah, we're gonna see the shield coming up, and they're going to decide to catch the next charge move here onto the Tentacruel, which I think they did have a little bit of energy still on the Tentacruel, so I'm totally okay by getting rid of them. But I am forced to use a shield here, and I don't really want to go for the CMP tie, but I think I would win the CMP tie. But I will be able to swap out, go for 1 cross chop here, go for another cross chop right afterwards. And I remember that Poliwrath has around the same attack stat as a Tapu Fini, so I should be able to win CMP, and I will be able to win CMP. And that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed the cheapest team for the Ultra League. Very great team that actually worked out super well for me, so hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, feel free to leave a like, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.